Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to take one of our 1-inch styrofoam balls and we are going to skewer that bad boy, boop, onto the toothpick. And I recommend putting it on there pretty good because Jill dropped hers, I don't know how many times during our making of eyeballs little excursion that we just had. And then you're going to take it so that it's as perpendicular to this sanding block as you can so that you can make a nice flat space where the iris will go. And the reason for that is because actually your iris doesn't go to the very edge of your eyeball. There's a little layer over the top. So to make it look realistic, you have to make this little flat spot for the iris to go on to. So around about that big. And we've got these irises that I found on Pinterest from some random source. And I printed them out until they looked like they'd be about the right size for the eyeballs. So, it's kind of a trial and error game here that we play in the prop making world. Some of us, maybe some of you are like perfect and you plan everything, and that's really great for you. And I'm so excited. But that's not how it works for me. So we try. Sometimes we fail. We learn from our mistakes and we keep going, right? That's the way the world really works. So that's how we're going to do things around here. So sometimes, that's what you got to do. So once you've got it about the size you think you want, you're going to wait to put that iris on until the last step, actually. So we've mixed some just glossy Mod Podge with just a tiny little bit of blue paint to get that it's a little bit too white for an eyeball, and for some reason blue works. I don't really actually have a great color theory because I'm not actually an artist. I'm just a nurse practitioner. I just work here. I just work here, guys. Just work here. If you're an artist and you know why blue works, please drop it in the comments. Would love to know. Would love to know. I want to learn from you. So cover it with this glossy luster Mod Podge with a little tint of blue in it, and cover it well so that it's good and gooey so that it will stick when you put your yarn on. So we've cut little pieces of yarn around about 1 inch, and then you're going to take those and you're going to peel them apart to make smaller strands. You want them to be relatively small, but not too fuzzy. A little bit of fuzz is fine and it will look great. And see how it has like that natural like kink to it? That'll make really great tortuous veins, well, arteries, whatever, vessels in the eyeball. So it'll look really super realistic. A few of the hairy spots, like a little of that here and there, is great too, because that'll actually end up looking like smaller vessels towards the end of the vasculature of the eye. So peeling those apart so that we have some smaller pieces to put on our styrofoam gluey eyeball. You could even, if you wanted to get super fancy, start to kind of like pick apart the edges so that it will end up having that kind of branching off that the vessels would naturally have in the eye if you were to pluck them out of your head. Please don't. Why would you do that? So just going to kind of go across the back and pat it down with the back of my fingernail. I found that for whatever reason that tends to not stick. I suppose you could get real crazy and put on gloves or something wild like that. I bet that would help too. But, I don't do that. I don't do that preparation thing very well all the time. So we're just going to go with our fingers. I think I want a smaller piece. I'm getting a little nitpicky here. It's going to slow me down. When you want 100 eyeballs, maybe I should like chill on the expectations. But if anybody here knows me, which you probably don't yet, I have no chill. I have no chill. And when it comes to Halloween, I like for things to be, just so. I try not to be too crazy and let people get their own creative juices flowing, but sometimes it's hard for me and I really have to push myself to do that. So, I think that looks pretty good. I don't know if it needs more, but it probably could get away with this, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to add a little bit more to the bottom here so that it has a little bit more of the base of the eyeball. I can't remember what that part of the eye is. Please don't come at me. Please don't come at me, ophthalmologists. But that, whatever the eye attaches to in the back, I imagine would be like a long cord if you were to pull your eyeballs out, which again, just don't do that. That's terrible. It sounds awful. So even though I'm a nurse practitioner and I was a nurse for many, many years prior to that, eyeballs kind of give me the ick. It's not my thing. Ophthalmology was not my thing. I did float nursing, and sometimes I had to float to the floors that had patients who had surgeries on their eyes and things, and I'll do it because I care about the people. But generally speaking, not my gig. Not a fan of the eyeballs. So I personally find this project to be especially gross. And that makes it more fun a little bit because it's for Halloween, right? It's supposed to be spooky and scary. So even though this looks totally crazy right now and really gooey, I want it to be super gooey because that yarn is going to absorb that Mod Podge quite a bit. And if you want it to still be shiny and have that sheen after it dries, then you really need to get kind of heavy-handed with that Mod Podge. So here's one that's done. You can see once that Mod Podge has dried, it's super shiny. You can't see it. It's clear and it looks great. Looks totally like vessels in my humble nurse practitioner who doesn't do ophthalmology opinion. And then once you're done making the vessels and you feel satisfied with what you've done, you can take one of the irises that you've cut out, it doesn't have to be perfect, and just plop it on there and try to center it as best as you can. It will kind of start to curl on the edges, you'll see, as it's soaking up the Mod Podge. So I like to, again, pat it down on the edges so that it will stay. The reason I'm only doing the edges is because I started out really getting crazy and like painting or gooping or poking at the middle of the paper, and it really started to lift the ink off of the paper and kind of ruin the iris. It wasn't a huge deal. They were fine. I didn't have to throw them away or anything. I still could use them, but picky, so picky. So I was really just not happy with touching the whole iris. So that's my method. I like to pat it around the edges. So once that dries, then, I don't even know if you absolutely have to wait for it to dry, but just because I'm waiting, you can then take the eyeball that's mostly dried and it does not, you can see it's got doesn't have a whole lot of dimension to it. It's really very flat and it looks fake that way in my opinion. So I do think it's worth it to get some UV resin. So this was pretty cheap on Amazon, of course, but I bet you can probably get it at any of your local hobby stores. So we're going to take a little bit of this UV resin, and I was like super wild for a hot second and was actually even using my little level. Like, come on, girl. Really? For 100 eyeballs, you're going to level it? So using a level to make sure I was absolutely going to be level, and then putting a little dabble do ya on the top of UV resin onto that iris, and then taking the UV light that it comes with and just zapping that bad boy for a couple of minutes. I don't know exactly how many minutes it is, but it's pretty brief. You can also use like a nail light. I saw in the original tutorial, she had like a little light that you put your fingernail in. But that looked kind of awkward and tricky to try to get the eyeball into. So I do recommend either buying the UV resin that comes with the light or getting yourself a little handheld light like this. It's rechargeable. It was super cheap. I believe the UV resin that I got did come with lights too. So this brand is Akise? I don't know. Anyway, Amazon. So super cheap, super simple, and dries hard to the touch within, you know, just a few seconds, and then it looks super realistic. So worth it. A little extra work, but I think it's worth going that extra mile. So I will show you the finished product when I get it done, but the ultimate idea is to have a claw machine where you can claw your eyes out. So a little like claw candy machine, except for instead of candy, they're eyeballs. So stay tuned. I will show you the rest of that build later. Thanks. Bye-bye, babes.